Why hello there, and welcome back to a thinly veiled excuse to plug my own Zine Quest project. So it is the third week of Zine Quest, or rather it is the end of the third week of Zine Quest, the beginning of the fourth. But the way these videos work, I look at the projects from the previous week because it would be difficult to look at projects from the upcoming week because I cannot see the future. And let's start things off with Sonnets from Another Dimension, a game about writing sonnets with randomly generated themes and metaphors. And how does that translate to a role-playing game? I don't know. That's the thing with some of these Zine Quest projects. They're a bit out there, and you just kind of have to trust that the creator, knows what they're doing and will wrap everything up in a way that makes sense. It's not always going to end up that way. Sometimes things are gonna just turn out to be a total mess. But, that's the thing. That's the thing when you are investing in a project that someone is pitching, is you have to have faith in the project, and sometimes it is rewarded and sometimes it is not. And next up we have the David Webb. Another game whose concept is not particularly interesting. It's just, your standard action movie type scenario. But what gets interesting is how they approach it, because instead of playing characters in the story, the players assume the roles of, well, in the description they say that they take on the role of the camera, and that it's a action movie cinematography role-playing game, but basically the way it is described is that players take turns, narrating the entirety of the scene, which is admittedly not like a unique concept, but it is one that I have not seen a lot, and I like people who experiment with the format that I've not seen a lot. And next, Miru, an analog adventure game, which is a solarpunk solo hexploration mapping game with fighting robots, and you have to kill a god. And those are a bunch of words that, you put them all together and it sounds like, at the very least, an interesting experience. And, personally, I have been thinking of looking more into, solo hex crawl type games, and I realize I said, that exact same thing about a game in my picks for the 2020 Zine Quest, which I still haven't actually played because this whole situation actually takes up quite a large chunk of my time. But I do it for you, the audience. And next, Goblin Market, a game about a ephemeral fae market that just kind of pops up in random Victorian cities where there are goblins that attempt to tempt and corrupt the people with their fae goblin ways that they have. The interesting thing being, you play as the goblins trying to corrupt the mortals. And it's one of those things that it's a fairly unremarkable fantasy scenario in general. But what makes it interesting is that you're on the other side of it. You are the monsters. I mean, terms like monster are so subjective, but you are the fae creatures who are trying to seduce the innocent humans into whatever fae shenanigans you got going on. It also does seem like a game where they put a lot of thought into the mechanics, to the point that I am not even going to try to summarize them here in this YouTube video. You can go and look at the campaign page if you want to know about that. And finally, We Hunt Bugs 2nd Edition, which is a game about hunting giant alien space bugs. As I keep saying, the games that I pick for these videos don't have to be revolutionary or, in some way insightful and new and exciting. No, they just have to be vaguely interesting. And honestly, sometimes they just have to be what's left over after I cut out the generic 5th edition and OSR supplements. And of course, the most important project running right now, Satanic Panic, the role-playing game. A game that lets you put your years of Dungeons & Dragons playing experience to good use as a satanic cultist in the 1980s, preparing to fulfill your destiny by performing the ritual to summon Satan himself. It is a satirical game about the 1980s and how, at the time, people believed that the Dungeons & Dragons was indoctrinating young people into occult satanic practices. That was a thing that actual adults believed in the 1980s. And some of them made a lot of money off of people believing that. Admittedly, I am also making money off of that concept, but I am charming, so that makes up for it. And that is it for this week. I will be back next week, provided that there are projects for me to talk about. I don't know, the last week is always very slow, but if there are projects for me to talk about, I will be back, probably a bit later than usual, because I will want to wait until the entirety of the month of August has elapsed, so the next video, if it occurs, will be posted on September 1st. And thank you for watching, with extra special thanks to my Fightin' Flail Snails, Samuel Gorski, Randy Mulholland, and Toshiro Kuro. If you would like to be cool like them, you can check out the Patreon. It's where you can get early access to videos, you can get fun stuff that I make for the Patreon, you can get books that I publish sometimes. Sometimes I just put them up on the Patreon. Yeah, but if you don't want to do that, that's cool too. You can still hit all of the lovely buttons. Like, subscribe, these other videos which have been selected by myself or by the YouTube. This one was probably selected by YouTube, so if there's something objectionable there, that's your problem. And I will see you next time.